today I want to get my main subject on my magazine cover, and that is my grandson. So we're going to be looking a little bit more at the Select and Mask tool. So if I go to a selection tool, that's this option right up here on the Tools option panel. And the Select and Mask tool is a very powerful tool to help you make really good selections and get something off of its background. This particular image is challenging. If I zoom in up here, because of the lighting and this baby fine hair, this makes it really hard to get a good selection around this area. So I'm going to use Select and Mask to help me out with that as much as possible. First, I need to select what it is I want to keep. And I think for this image, there's lots of selection tools, but for this image, I think the quick selection tool is going to work well. So I'm going to click and drag and get the best selection that I can. And I want to include his blanket down here. I'm going to incorporate that into my magazine cover. I'm going to reduce the size of my quick selection tool using the bracket key and try to get as close to this as possible. Okay, the other thing, to pull this back in, I want to hold Option, and that'll take me to the minus. And I'm finding that with the Select and Mask tool, it's better to keep things only on your subject than to pull it out here. It's better to have it pulled in, because you can pull this in or try to pull this in when you get into that Select and Mask screen, and I'm going to show you today how to do that. So basically, I don't want anything outside of my subject selected here. Only things that are my subject. So I'll pull this in and I'll try to grab these fine hairs in the Select and Mask screen. Okay, so all of this I will try to get in Select and Mask. So I'm going to go ahead and go into Select and Mask, and I'm going to start out on onion skin so I can see the background that I have, and moving the transparency down to about 50 so I can see both the selection that I have and also what it is I might be missing. So let's zoom in. Okay, so the blanket got a pretty good selection. It looks like I missed some of his sweater here. So when you're missing a whole solid section, so this isn't hair, this is solid, you can go to the third tool down here, which is the paintbrush tool, and you can just simply paint that back in. And I'm on a soft brush. I can also change these settings, just like if you were working on a layer mask. You can change them to a hard brush, a soft brush, all of these things. So there are different options in here. And I guess I will go ahead and try a harder brush. Okay, and if I go out too far, like I have a few little spots right here, I can change to minus, so that will take away from what I have selected. Okay, so moving along, I'm just going to go along my edge here. And then we get up into the hair area where it's a little bit more problematic. Now, when you have hair or something like that, feathers, hair, fur, that is coming out into the background, you can try this second tool down, and this is the Refine Edge Brush tool. And with this tool, the only thing I'm going to say is be careful not to paint this inside your subject, because you'll create this transparency that you're not going to like. So we don't want this to be transparent in here, but it's okay to have some transparency out here. So you just basically want to paint in where you see the hair coming out on the background, like so. And hopefully, if it does its job, you're going to see the hair appear and less of the background. And keep working with this transparency over here. So you can slide this back and forth. So I wanted to see what's going on right here. So I do have a strand of hair here, But again, this is very challenging because of this baby fine hair and the lighting behind him here. Okay, there's also a hair coming out here, so I can try to paint this in and see what happens. I can always use that brush tool to get rid of it if I don't like it, so I'm going to paint this in. And then turning that back up, see what I'm missing over here. Okay, so I think this is going to be really hard. I don't think Photoshop's going to recognize that as hair, but we can go ahead and try it. And just see what happens. And remember, with this tool, you're not painting into your subject. Okay, so let's turn that transparency down and see what we got there. So that's what I was afraid of, that it's bringing in too much of the background because it's not sure what's going on there. So I'm going back to my brush tool with being on minus, and I'm just going to get rid of this. I think we're better off just not having that. Okay, but let's turn the transparency back up and see what's going on this side. Okay, so I have a lot of hair in here. I think I'm going to try to pull some of that back in. Okay, so moving down, I see I have a piece there that I need to get rid of. So going back to the paintbrush, and while on minus, I will zoom into this. And you can use your bracket keys to make these bigger and smaller, and just get rid of some of these little unwanted areas here. And it also has a grab tool over here, so you can easily grab and move around. Okay, so see how I'm bringing that background transparency back up so I can see what's happening there. And I think that I can go to a soft brush now. So I'll put a 0% hardness, and I'm doing that because I'm on a sweater, and a sweater is a pretty soft thing, so I think it's okay to have a soft edge. So you'll notice that the sweater goes all the way up to here, so I missed some of that, so I can bring some of that in. Okay, and now I'm moving into the edge of the blanket. And I think I'll just take away some of these little bit of a dark edge here, just so that looks better against whatever background I end up putting it on. Okay, so I've gone all the way around my image, and I'm turning the transparency all the way down, and I'm going to do one more round here just to make sure I have the best edge possible. Okay, so his ear looks a little weird there. I want to see what's going on with that, so let me turn that background back up. Okay, so I think that I can just actually take this little tip off, and then maybe try one more time to get some of these little hair strands. Photoshop's not seeing them very well, which is what's happening there. So it's probably as good as I'm going to get. So I'm going to keep moving along. And I'm also going to change my view on white. And that helps me see a lot of this stuff going on. So back to my brush. Let's get rid of some of this. Okay, so I have gone around this twice. Again, this was a very challenging image, but it has a lot of meaning to me because it's my grandson, and it's really cool to create a magazine cover for somebody that you know, or for an animal that you have or have had in the past, because then it has special meaning. But the pictures that we take with our cameras don't always turn out that great, or they need a little bit of help. When you see an image on a magazine cover at the store, believe me, somebody has photoshopped that thing. And so this is kind of our job to Photoshop it. Now, you can use an image of a famous person that you find online, that's okay. But if you do choose to to create a magazine cover with somebody that you know personally, a family member, a friend, a pet, whatever, then you may have a little bit more time on this cleanup step, creating the best photo that you can get out of what you're working with. And I can help you with that. Removing from the background is one of the most useful skills you can have as a Photoshopper. So it's always good to do that, to practice it, and to get better at it as you go. So I am ready to output this thing, and I have different options here for outputting. I can output it to a selection, to a new layer. If I want to work on it some more, I can put it on a new layer with a layer mask, a new document, or a new document with a layer mask. And I think that I've worked on it enough. I'm pretty happy with it. I don't feel like I want to work on a layer mask with it anymore. So I'll go ahead and output it to a new layer and say OK. And there is my grandson outputted to a new layer with the background removed. Now I am going to use the move tool to just grab him, move him into my magazine cover. And of course I need to size him. And I may adjust my placement on him later, because remember, I'm going to be placing words, for articles and maybe little images around him. And so I might need some space. So I may end up moving him down further or up further. Most of your subjects will be either in front of or behind your magazine logo. They're usually not down lower than that, but your reference magazine may show it that way. So remember, you're using your reference magazine and you're following that as closely as possible. So go ahead and get that placed. Remember, never ever distort your images, never ever distort your text unless there is a specific purpose for that. And on these magazine covers, we probably are not going to want to see any distortion of text or of images. Okay, that's going to be it for today. Next time we'll just continue building this magazine cover. At that time I'll pull up my reference magazine and I'll start working with the color scheme, deciding what text I want on here, other images if any, and continue working on it.